Your home is the biggest investment you'll probably ever make. Why would you not treat that as your personal kingdom?
Today on Time to Discuss, I have Risha Walden with me from Walden Interiors. Risha, thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Fantastic day today.
It sure is. I'm excited to speak with you. You're an interior designer, but I also believe there's kind of a vegan component to that. So I'd definitely like to talk more about how that all fits in. But before we get into all that, let's start with this. What is a typical day like for you as an interior designer?
I kind of have two parts of my day. When I start my day with my business, I start with organizing what I'm going to attack. If there's any fires that I need to be putting out immediately, I do that. And then I go into sales and I do cold calling, talking to my referral partners, looking to see what other kind of collaborations I can make and expand my reach, as well as working on marketing. And then I leave my afternoons. Of course, it's never like this, but I leave my afternoons to work on the creative aspects of my business. And that would be on my clients' projects and searching, selecting materials, talking to vendors, setting up, getting pricing, that kind of work that has to be done on the projects itself. And then my evenings are back into doing work on my business versus in the business. So I can continue to expand. And I'm learning that if people don't know you, they can't hire you. So I want to have more people know me. I can help more people. I believe that living in a beautiful environment is beneficial for your health, your mental state, and I can help a lot of people.
That sounds awesome. And I'm hoping I can do my little part to try to help that. Bring your name
Sure.
out there just a little bit more, just a little bit more. One thing you mentioned, you talked about putting out fires. Now, I've never thought about that, metaphorically speaking, in the world of interior design. So
Uh,
what kind of fires are you putting out?
well, there's always a project going on. So there may be a plumber on needing to be on site, or um, there's an issue with delivery. The material that I had selected has now been discontinued. So these are the kind of issues that I like to tackle first thing in the morning, and then they're done. And I can follow up in the afternoon.
Now, when it comes to interior design, are there a lot of opportunities for people to work as interior designer within firms or organizations, or is a lot of the work more, like you said, solopreneur?
There are a lot of firms that have interior designers that work on staff, architectural firms, contracting firms, showrooms. But there are also a lot of solopreneurs who have started their business to help homeowners, and they are purely interior design businesses. A lot of the interior designers that I know work out of their homes, have a home studio, and are working by themselves.
When I think of interior designers, I think of like um, my knowledge is very limited.
Right. Okay.
So does it, I envision it's like, is it every aspect of any room? It can be furniture, it can be art, it can be, what all does it encompass typically?
What it encompasses is all the decorative elements in the room, furniture layout, furniture selection. Um, but it also interior design also incorporates uh, the spatial planning of the home. So it can mean opening up walls, expanding a space, closing in a space. Now, while I do create plans for that, those plans actually are not good for uh, acquiring a permit if you're going to do the work, but they're meant to give you a idea of how the room could be. And then sometimes we need to get an archi- architect to create the plans that then can be submitted for a permit.
Now, how important is it for an interior designer to actually look at the physical space? Can you just look at, I don't want to say blueprints, but like something in that realm, or do you need to actually physically check it out?
No, I start with blueprints, especially when they're building a house. It's a great way to start. I love being on the project right even before the blueprints have been set, because having a great team to create a house for specific homeowners is integral to the architect understands how to create the boxes and how to put them together, and the contractor is great at building the boxes. And where my skill set comes in is how those boxes work from the inside out. So how they integrate to each other, how you move along around the space. And so that's why starting early with blueprints is exciting, because I can make changes without major costs. Once construction starts and then we want to make changes, we start incurring change fees. So it's great to always start with a blueprint. Now, of course, if I'm working with clients who have a home, I love being in the space because I see how they live in their space. I can get a good idea of their style, their aesthetic, and who they are.
It's interesting you talk about incurring those costs. I was speaking with film director George Siegel and also audio engineer Henry. I forget his last name off the top of my head, but we were talking about that concept. There's this production, the production pyramid, I think they call it. The further along you get in the project, the more expensive it is to fix things. It's much easier to catch problems
Absolutely.
early on, and it seems like in interior design, very similar thing as well. I can't remember if it was before we started recording, but we talked about you starting your agency in 2009, I believe it was.
Yes.
Now, prior to that, were you doing interior design? Is this a second career for you? How did you actually get started with that?
I was a stay-at-home mom and I wanted to go back to work, but I didn't want to take on a full-time job. So I started by taking a few classes at the New York School of Interior Design, and I was adding classes and doing more, thinking at some stage I'm going to start my business. Fast forward like 6 years later, I was separated and I realized I need to start working, and I started my design firm. I had a great client that I got started with, and I realized that I couldn't finish my education and start the firm and be um, in the middle of a divorce. So I stopped doing my education at that point. But I'd taken many, many classes. Plus, I'm a creative person. I'm a performer. I grew up as a classical musician. I was in theater. And I also do visual art. There's some art behind me that's mine. So I have a really creative eye. That part, I don't think you have to go to school to be an interior designer. There are definite design elements that you need to understand and design terms that you need to understand, but you don't have to go to school to learn them. Of course, you can, and school can be helpful. But some of my favorite designers, like Kelly Wearstler and Vincente Wolf, they didn't go to school.
You think about people have different idols. You have if you're a musician, you might look up to certain musicians. If you're an artist, you're going to look up to different artists. And it never even occurred to me that as an interior designer, you're going to have that same idea. You're going to have these people that's like they create really great designs. I want to emulate
Right,
what they're doing, or borrow some of the things that they're doing and kind of make
right.
it my own. That is really, really cool. It's also good to know, like you said, you don't necessarily have to go to a traditional school
No,
to go down this road. But it sounds like having that creative side is imperative. And I think you would agree with that.
I think it's very important. But as I'm learning, that just because you're a great designer doesn't mean that you're going to have a good business. You need to, if I was to do it again, I would have gone to business school. So, or business training, because I had the creative ability. And then to pair those together, that would have allowed me to grow faster, help more people when I understood more of the business aspects and how that really comes together with interior design for me as a solopreneur.
I'm glad you mentioned the business component to it. So, what did you end up doing to augment your, dare I say, lack of business skills? Because you didn't go to school for business. So, what did you
No,
end up doing for that?
I started working with a mentor and business group. I'm doing a lot more training. I'm doing marketing training, sales training. I need to hire people. So I have 1099s, but I would like to have a W-2 people with me. So seeing how I can hire people and make that a successful partnership. So I'm reading books. I'm following more business coaches. I'm getting, I really am applying myself. Particularly, I would say right now it's been in sales because I didn't realize that really I have to do selling. I didn't realize how important that was. And not selling in a bad way, selling in the way that I know that what I have is really important for helping homeowners improve their life as a homeowner. And I can also help them increase the value of their home. But if I can't communicate that to the homeowner properly so that they can understand the advantages and the benefit of working with me, then they're not interested in working with me. So that's really what I've been working and honing my skills on.
When you talk about homeowners and working with homeowners, it made me think of this. When someone is getting ready to have a home built, is the construction company, the firm that's actually building the house, do they typically offer the homeowner an interior designer? Should the owner request one of those? How does that typically work with new construction?
Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of contractors are concerned about offering a designer because it's an additional cost and they don't want to lose out on the job. Sometimes they will refer and they have some referral partners that they will work with. Sometimes the referral will come from an architect for the interior designer. And sometimes people just have their own interior designer or somebody they've worked with before or been referred to from a friend. But it behooves you to work with an interior designer because if you're asking the contractor to decide how the color of the tiles and the pattern of the tiles and what pretty faucets to use, this is not in the expertise of a contractor. They are interested in building and putting together the house. And these design details detract from their purpose. And so what happens is that you are usually the contractor is going to give you their route answer. So they've said, I've done this 3 times. I've used the same faucet. It works every time. I've used the same tile. It works every time. Now, that's okay. If you want to have a cookie cutter house, go ahead. But I believe people are very unique. They have their own lifestyle, their own way, their own personalities. And when your home is the biggest investment you'll probably ever make, why would you not treat that as your personal kingdom that helps you and reflects you and your lifestyle? And when you come home, it helps, remind you of this abundance that you're working on creating. Like, why would you ask a contractor for that information?
Let me go back to the very beginning of our conversation. I
Mhm.
talked about that you're a vegan interior
Yes.
designer. So let's
Yeah.
talk more about that. What does that actually mean to you and to your clients?
So I didn't start off as a vegan interior designer. I was just a regular old interior designer, but I became vegan 9 years ago. And then I realized very quickly how prolific interior design was using animal products. So I thought, holy cow, like I'm a hypocrite. I've decided not to eat animals and use them in my diet, in my home, in my beauty products. But I'm selling them in my business for my business, and I had to align both of them. So my designs do not use any animal products to the best of my ability because there are a lot of obstacles with that. But I look for cruelty-free alternatives that don't compromise the aesthetic, don't compromise the performance, and don't compromise my clients' dreams. That has become easier and easier over the past 9 years because using an animal product is very costly on the earth and so it actually falls in a sustainable field. So that's been great.
That's awesome. So when you initially said you're talking about the history of when you were vegan and you realized that different uh, components that you're sourcing use animal byproducts, we'll say. I was going to ask you how has that gotten easier over time? Has that changed at all? Is it easier to find these products? And it sounds like what you're saying it is. It isn't as difficult as it once was. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Where I have the issues when things are made overseas, there are things like glues, paint finishes, stains, furniture finishes that I can't guarantee with 100% that there isn't some animal byproduct in there. When we're talking about things like leather, silk, wool, down, that's easy to identify. But there's some smaller components that make it more difficult.
Let's talk about your clients. Where have you had the most success with your clients? Is it large organizations, small organizations, individuals?
It's mainly residential homeowners. So they are single family homes. Usually they're more affluent because they have the disposable income to hire and pay for a luxury service and items. But I also have a do-it-yourself service so that for people who want to utilize interior design services but don't have the means to do so, I come in and work together with them, giving them uh, a very substantive list of how they can improve their space and the order to do it to get the best bang. And then they can follow the steps at their own time and on their own budget.
And how about the materials that you use? How difficult is it to find to source the different things that you're using? Was that, difficult in the beginning, but now you have the different, I use this company for this, that company for that, or is it still you're looking for the perfect pieces for people? How challenging is that?
I'm always looking for the perfect pieces for people. I love it's like a hunt, really. I'm looking for this particular piece and I can see it, I know it. I know a ton of vendors. They have tons of interior design markets. There's two particularly large ones in the US. One large one that happens twice a year in April and October. So that's always a great place to go and learn about the different manufacturers, what their style is, what they have to offer. But I am always sourcing. I'm always looking. I'm seeing the new collections that come out all the time. I'm always scouring websites, looking at so not just in terms of furniture, but in terms of fabrics, etc. I'm going into the showrooms and seeing what's new, what's up and coming, and trying to utilize those in for each client uniquely. So I don't really, I like a maximalist look. I love Art Deco, but that doesn't mean I'm doing that for my clients. I'm figuring out, and this is my superpower, I figure out very quickly my client's aesthetic and what they need and how to create it. And then I figure that really quickly. And then I know where to go to pull the elements together. So I can create it in a unique way. Lots of people, for instance, will they only have the choice of the big box stores of like Crate and Barrel, Ethan Allen, Restoration Hardware. And they're like, well, I like Restoration Hardware. And I know that I can create that kind of look with their own personally added to it with better pieces, better quality pieces. So that's what I do. I mean, Restoration Hardware, they spend a lot on marketing. That's what you're paying for. So I like to find and do each project from a personal, unique viewpoint.
That's awesome. You kind of like give that person that wood glove service. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Risha, one thing I'd like to ask, I don't ask this all the time, but one question I do like to ask, if someone is considering going down the road that you've gone down, they want to be an interior designer.
Yes.
What is one quality, is something that if they don't like blank, then this is not for them? What would that blank be?
If you don't like sales or you don't know about sales, you better like get in with a big firm that brings the sales to you and all you do is the creative work, because you're not going to survive as a small business. I just don't know how you do that. So, and sales can be lots of different ways. It can be networking, it can be referral partners, it's cold calling, cold knocking on doors. I mean, there's lots of avenues, but you have to get good at that.
I love that because one of the things I like to do is identify barriers that people might have to overcome in order to get into a particular field. So the sooner you discover those barriers, and is
Yeah.
that barrier you can knock down or not, that's a good thing to identify. Small edit here. About 30 minutes after my conversation with Risha, it occurred to me I never asked her to do her plug. So I had to get her back on the show. So several days have passed, got her back. Here's the end of the recording. Risha, one thing I like to do on my show here is I like to give the person I'm speaking with the opportunity to talk about a cause they believe in, a project they're working on, some more about your business. So if there's something more you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I support PETA, so it is a bit of a, it can be an in-your-face organization, but they try to bring awareness and education about animal rights and the suffering that animals do have on this earth. So anybody who wants to support that, that would be lovely.
That is fantastic. I love when people they try to support the animals. We've had people say that several times. I love that. I grew up with animals, huge animal lover. So anytime that comes up, a little part of my heart just grows a little bit more. I love that.
Fantastic.
Risha, it's been absolutely awesome having you on Time We Discuss and learning what it's like to be an interior designer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.